everyone, and thank you so much for joining us all here today. Today's shiur should be Le'ilu Nishmas, our dear friend Menachem ben Yisrael Yaakov, as well as my dear aunt Rivka Bas Gabriel Tzvi, and for Zaidi Reb Shmuel ben Yosef Doiv HaKohen, and also the Refuah Shalem Bekarv Meshalom ben Sarachel, Miriam Bas Sarah, Yair Yashir ben Chaya Atara. Today also we have a special Refuah Shalema for Ariella Sarah Bas Bela Rezel, who had a hip surgery this morning at 8 o'clock. Hopefully all went well. And as well as for Le'ilu Nishmas, for Rabbi Rapperg's brother-in-law, who unfortunately tragically passed away yesterday in a horrific car accident. Should be Le'ilu Nishmas, Menachem Mendel ben Yitzchak. Okay, we are on page 141 in the art scroll for those who are following along. And today we are starting on the second of the 7 categories in where and how to place our Bitachon when it comes to different matters. And we learned on health and basic sustenance. That's what we finished off yesterday with the 3 subset of categories on that. And today we're working on the second of the 7 main categories, which is applying additional income. So when you apply your Bitachon to additional income, it's until now, we talk about a basic sustenance, that's what something Hashem promised us, and we just have to do our shtadlus for that. And today we're going to see how we treat additional income. Additional income is outside of our basic needs, the extra luxuries that we want in life, the extra comforts that we want in life, those kind of things that we look for, that's not part of what Hashem promised us for the basic sustenance, but it's those things that we yearn. People want that, sometimes even basic luxuries. We say basic luxuries. Sometimes even, an extra something that doesn't revolve around you just eating bread and water, just basic stuff. And so here's how we deal with that. Until here, Rav Av has described how Bitachon applies in regards to things that are essential to a person's existence in this world. And in this section, he addresses the application of Bitachon in regard to the extra comforts and luxuries that people crave and for which they spend much of their time working. This part is actually the part that most people on this world spend their days for this particular thing, the additional income, to support everything else in their life. Because every time you want additional income, it's because you want a new car, you want a new this, you want new clothing, you want to go on vacation, you want extra this, extra that. Almost nothing that we work for every single day, the drive that we have, is for the basic sustenance. We take for granted the basic sustenance, and everything else we want is because we want the extras in life, in which that is the additional income. And now, for the explanation of this second category, which consists of matters relating to a person's acquisition of assets. His sources of livelihood, and his involvement in some occupation, whether it's commerce or a craft, transportation management or hired work, all these different things, clerking or government employment, accounting, contracting or credit, all these different things that he talks about. Writing or performing other kinds of service, journeying in the wilderness and the seas, or any other such activity, in which people engage in order to amass money and indulge in luxuries. These are all things that people get involved in. He just names these kind of things to kind of bring a point that people get involved in different aspects of life as far as commerce is concerned, in order to gain extra money, the additional income, not your basic sustenance. Now, most people seek an occupation that will not merely supply them with the basic sustenance. That's what he's saying over here in the Cliff Notes. But most people seek an occupation that's going to give them more than that. Nobody looks, at least no one I know, looks for a job like, if I have this job, I'll just make it. I'm just going to get by. Most people look for something and they hope, at least the idea is when they get into it, is that it's going to make them enough money that they're going to be able to have the few extra comforts of life. The correct way of applying Bitachon in Hashem with regards to this extra, the additional income that we're working on. She is asik b'masha zimen loy habayra mehem, that a person should engage in these acts that the Hashem has prepared for him, which is those jobs that he got involved in, l'tzoyrech sipuke mazoyneh, to the extent that it suffices for the purpose of obtaining his essential sustenance and food. Meaning, when we spoke about in the introduction that a person gets involved in a job based on Bitachon, he figures out what he wants to do, he feels good about it, it fits his personality, his physical abilities, and he gets involved in it. And the Bitachon over there, remember, was always about that the Hashem is going to provide for him. Same thing over here. Now, he got into this job, and he had the idea that Hashem is going to provide him with his basic sustenance. And to attain that which is sufficient for his other basic necessities in this world, he should not work harder in order to obtain those luxuries. What he's saying over here is like this. When we spoke about it in the introduction that we need to do hishtadlus, to make money so we could put food on the table, over there, it was a requirement of ours. And even more than that, it was even a mitzvah of ours to get involved in doing some sort of work in order to put food on the table. And over there, we're talking about the basic sustenance. Over here, he's warning us against that. You shouldn't go out of your way and overexert yourself for these luxuries in life, because that's not part of this deal what Hashem promised you. And as we're going to see in a minute, that Hashem already decreed how wealthy or not wealthy one person should be. And therefore, you shouldn't be overexerting yourself in the sense where you're trying so hard to make more into these luxuries where you might not actually ever get that. Because he says like this, if Hashem decrees for him to receive extra income beyond the basic necessities that Hashem promised, then it would come to this person without any effort or any extra exertion of themselves. Meaning, the Baal Bitachon needs to understand that if a Hashem decreed for you to have more than what you believe your job can give you, it means that you should not be overexerting yourself to go do more than what's required of you. What's required of you is your hishtadlus. That's to gain your basic necessities. Everything extra than that, you could do whatever you want, whatever you think it makes sense, but it doesn't mean you're going to get it. And therefore Hashem is saying over here, the Shaar Habitachon is saying, don't overexert yourself in the case where you weren't promised that. And even more than that, if it's decreed that you shouldn't have it, you could work 20 hours a day, you're still not going to get it. And further he goes, and will come without any additional effort or exertion. Kashi yiftach el lekimba, provided that he trusts Hashem regarding these the extra income and these extra luxuries. Now, he says like this, if he believes, that a person believes that the extra income is going to come to him from his regular status that he does every single day, his 9 to 5, his regular work, then he's never going to need to do any additional work, never need to exert himself more than he has to in order to earn those luxuries. Because the Baal Bitachon understands that those luxuries, anything extra, anything else, if Hashem decreed it's going to happen regardless. But when we spoke about earlier in the introduction a few months ago, is that when a person should never divide his Bitachon between God and someone or something else. Therefore, Hashem, he warns over here that Hashem, if you're going to split your Bitachon with regards to the extras, you're going to say, I'm going to take on 3 jobs so I can make the extra money. There's a few things that can happen, but what Hashem, main thing that's going to happen over here is that Hashem is going to say, okay, you don't trust in me and solely in me, then what's going to happen is I'm going to have to, and let's say it's decreed for the person to gain that extra. Then what's going to happen is that person's only going to get the extras based on the fact that he exerts his full energy into his work. So he might be a workaholic and make $1 billion a year, but the only way he's going to make $1 billion a year is because he's working 20 hours a day. And not because he believes firmly that Hashem can give it to him without exerting himself. And so if he became a workaholic over time, then he's showing Hashem that he's putting more trust in his own physical work than in God's abilities. And so that's how he warns against over here. Now he goes like this. V'im lo yigzru lo yosem min hamazar. Sorry. V'lo yarbe lechaze al hasibos. He should not seek additional avenues to obtain the extra income. V'lo yismach aleim beliboy. Nor should he rely on such avenues in his heart. Meaning he shouldn't say, oh, I need this extra, I need to go work more, need more, because that's what's going to make it happen. He shouldn't do that. V'im lo yigzru lo yosem min hamazar. If, on the other hand, Hashem does not decree for him to earn more money than for the basic food, for his basic essentials, then he should know that even if all the beings in heaven and earth, meaning that if a person is not decreed by Hashem that he should have the extras, then he could pull together all the powers from every human being and every malach between earth and Shemayim, and he still wouldn't be able to change the decree of Hashem. They would not be able to, b'shum panim, not in any way, b'shum siba, and not by any means. Meaning, his extra efforts may earn him a larger money at the end of the day. It might happen. He might make an extra $500,000, but God's going to find a way to give him an invoice for $500,000. So it might look like for face value that your hard work is earning you more money. And then what's going to happen is, the funny thing that happens is, see, my hard work made me $1 million this year. And then you laugh, you say, Hashem sent me a tzara and I lost them $500,000 in the stock market. All of a sudden, God's involved. He's only involved in your losses. Right? What happened to the positive side? God's not involved over there? So you have to understand everything is from Hashem. And don't overexert yourself, because it's not going to change the outcome at the end of the day. Now, he talks about over here, hishtadlus with respect to extra comforts. Over here, the section, Rav Av draws the distinction between a person's basic necessities, what we spoke about, health and basic sustenance, and over here, when it comes to hishtadlus with as far as the additional income, which is luxuries and extras in life. We need to understand that the mindset is a little bit different. When it comes to your basic sustenance, you must, halachically, go out and find work in order to provide food, sustenance, health, and well-being for yourself and your family. Now, when it comes to the extra income, it's the complete opposite. He says, do not overexert yourself to make that extra income, because if it's not decreed, it's not going to happen. So I want you to understand, the requirement of us to do hishtadlus is only so that we go out every single day understanding that Hashem is going to provide for us. Hashem made that promise, go out and do your hishtadlus and I'll give you your basic sustenance. If you are supposed to get luxuries in life, you will get it regardless. But don't overexert yourself. The hishtadlus is purely for the basic sustenance in our life. Anything more than that, and you overexerting yourself, is not what Hashem wants you to do. And it's counter to the Bitachon that we have built to have in ourselves. Because if you believe in Hashem providing for you, then Hashem is going to give it to you, whether you are working on a job that can make you $1 million a year or $100 million a year. If you're supposed to keep $100 million a year, God will find a way for you to keep that. And that's what he's explaining over here, the big difference between the first category and the second category. It's how you laid out that Bitachon. And the Bitachon in the first category is with the hishtadlus. You must do the hishtadlus. And the second one is kind of going away from that. Do not do extra hishtadlus for that. And he goes on to continue. He says, Rav Av adds that trusting in Hashem in the manner described causes a person to be serene. And he closes off with this part. He says, "V'kasha yiftach b'lekim," when a person trusts in Hashem to provide for him, yimtza menuchas liboy v'shalvas nafshay. He will find peace of mind and tranquility of soul. This is one of the most important things, and why I personally have found to love Shaar Habitachon. Because it really brings down a person's anxiety level. Because you no longer have expectations. When you have these expectations we spoke about a couple weeks ago, that's kind of what causes these setbacks, because we expected more. Whereas in reality, we shouldn't have expected that. We're supposed to just understand that we need to do our part, and whatever the outcome will come. Now, what he's saying over here is, if you put full bitachon and understanding that whatever you are supposed to do is what you're doing, and the outcome is truly up to Hashem, then when things are not going the way you like it to be, you can still feel good understanding that this is up to Hashem anyway. And I can try to work hard from today to tomorrow, and it's not going to change anything. It might change something for face value right at the beginning. You might go and work really, really hard over, over a course of a few weeks or months, and then you might make an extra couple of dollars. But if you don't deserve to keep that money, God will find a way for you to lose that money. And if you don't and even if you deserve to keep that money, but you're not putting Bitachon in Hashem, Hashem says, no problem, you can have it, I want you to have it, I decreed for you to have it. But you're only feeling that you can get that by you overworking yourself. And so go ahead, overwork yourself, burn yourself out, be my guest. If you can't trust me, can't trust in the process that I've built this world on, then go ahead and do your own thing. He says like this, Kilo Yavrenu Chukai Ezulasai, for he knows that his allotment will not be passed on to someone else, because he has this peace of mind. Nor will what was ordained for him come any earlier or later than its predetermined time. Meaning, if Hashem decided, he decreed that you should have wealth, and he decided you should have it on January 26, 2027, then it's never going to happen before that, and it's not going to happen after that. That's when it's going to happen, at 6:08 a.m., when that's when God wants you to wake up and read your lottery ticket. So don't try to push it. Don't try to hop really, really fast thinking that you're going to be able to make it happen any sooner. If it's decreed you should have it, you'll get it. If it's decreed you should have it today, you'll get it today. If it's decreed you should have it tomorrow, you'll get it tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, for joining us all here today, and I love you all.